Hi, it's Ms Dubas here, and welcome to Lesson 10 of the Climatic Hazards Unit. Please make sure that you've got a pen, a piece of paper, and a different colour pen to mark with, and that you're working somewhere quiet and free of distraction so that you can focus on your learning. And whenever you're ready, we can get started. So this lesson focuses on an extreme weather event that took place in the UK during the winter of 2013 to 2014. This event led to the flooding of a significant area in Somerset. This lesson will focus on the location and the causes of the flooding. The causes of the flooding were linked to the extreme weather event, but also to human activity. So as mentioned, this lesson focuses on an extreme weather event in the UK, but also its consequences. When we refer to a weather event that is extreme, we regard it as being extreme if it fulfills one or more of the following criteria. So if the event is unusual, so out of the ordinary or above or below average. If it is unseasonal, so perhaps the event takes place at a time of year that wouldn't be expected, so a snowstorm in summer, for example. And if the event is regarded as severe, so it has quite significant consequences, then we may regard this event as being an extreme weather event. So the event that we will consider in our lesson is one which led to significant flooding of the Somerset Levels. The Somerset Levels is a low-lying area of land in the UK, as seen in the first photo. However, during the winter of 2013 to 2014, much of the area was underwater, as you can see in the second image. So why is this and what happened? So we first need to locate the Somerset Levels within the UK before finding out what caused the flood event and how this linked to an extreme weather event. So where did this event take place? So we're going to have a look at some facts that are linked to the location of the Somerset Levels, and there are also two maps on your screen to help you. So the Somerset Levels are located in the southwest of England in the county of Somerset. They are bordered between the Quantock Hills and the Mendip Hills. The Bristol Channel is also to the northwest, and I've shown you whereabouts the Bristol Channel is located using the pink arrow on the screen. There are several rivers that flow across this landscape, and you'll notice that in the bottom map on the screen. But two that we're going to be focusing on in particular throughout the two lessons linked to the Somerset Level flooding are the River Tone and the River Parrett. But just notice how many rivers do flow across this landscape. And there are lots of towns within this area, such as Bridgwater and Glastonbury. So we are now going to describe the location of the Somerset Levels, and describing the location of a place in geography is a geographical skill. So I want you to imagine that I cannot see the maps that you see on the screen, and also that I don't know anything about the location of the Somerset Levels, and you are going to need to write me a paragraph to describe their location in detail. Within your paragraph, you need to include the facts that we've just been discussing. And on the screen, you will see 6 bullet points to give you some clues about what to include within your paragraph. So the location within England, the name of a county, the hills, the Bristol Channel and maybe a direction, the names of rivers, and maybe even the names of towns. So please pause the video at this point to write your paragraph to describe the location of the Somerset Levels in detail, and then when you are ready to mark your work, please resume the video so that we can check that you've included everything that you need. So we're now ready to mark your work, so please make sure that you have a different colour pen to do this. You may have included all of the same information that I have. You might have just done that in a different order, and that is absolutely fine. But just make sure that you have included all of the things that are in pink within my model answer. So the Somerset Levels are located in southwest England within the county of Somerset. The Somerset Levels are bordered between the Quantock Hills, Mendip Hills and the Bristol Channel, northwest. Several rivers also flow across this landscape, for example, the River Tone and the River Parrett. Towns such as Bridgwater and Glastonbury are located here. So just double check you've included all of the key points, and if you wanted to pause the video at this stage to redraft your answer to make sure you've included all the key ideas, that is absolutely fine. We'll now consider the physical or natural causes of the flooding in Somerset linked to an extreme weather event. There are two main physical causes of the flooding. The first physical cause of the flooding is linked to extreme levels of rainfall, increasing input into the drainage basin, and this is linked to the extreme weather experienced during this time frame. Several Atlantic storms brought rain to Somerset over several weeks. Somerset received 3 times the usual amount of rainfall between December 2013 and February 2014. This was unusual and severe, which highlights why this was classed as an extreme weather event. It was the wettest January since records began in 1910. This increase in input of rainfall caused the ground to become saturated or full of water. So let's have a look at the diagrams at the bottom of the screen to find out why this is an issue. Unsaturated soil allows rainwater to infiltrate or seep into it. This means the rainwater enters the river more slowly as it travels underground towards the river channel. Once the soil becomes saturated or full of water, infiltration can no longer occur. This increases surface runoff, causing rainwater to reach the channel faster. The level of discharge or water in the river channel will increase, and this will cause the river to reach its bank full capacity and flood. Bank full capacity means when the river is full. So the extreme amount of rainfall during this period led to rivers becoming overwhelmed and being unable to cope with the high levels of water input. The second physical cause of the Somerset floods is also linked to the extreme weather. High tides occurred at the same time as storm surges during this period. The storm surges are caused by strong winds pushing seawater towards the coast. This prevented fresh river discharge or water from flowing freely out into the Bristol Channel. This caused river discharge to back up and flood the surrounding area. So the rivers were not only experiencing higher than usual levels of river discharge, they were also unable to remove this additional discharge from the area fast enough, increasing the flood risk. So to ensure that we understand the physical causes of the Somerset flooding linked to the extreme weather event, we're now going to complete this activity. You will need to copy and complete the table. The description of each cause is completed already, so you will be required to complete the explanation of each cause only. How did the additional rainfall and the high tide and storm surges contribute towards the flood event? There are key words to include in your answers below the table. If you would like to listen to the explanations again, please skip back in the video. If not, please make sure that you pause the video now to complete your task and resume when you are ready to mark your work. So we're now ready to mark your work, so please ensure that you have a different colour pen in order for you to do this. So let's have a look at what your answers should have included. So let's look at the first physical cause of flooding. Somerset received 3 times the usual amount of rainfall between December 2013 and February 2014. This contributed towards the flood event because it increased the input of water into the drainage basin. The ground became saturated after the initial storm events, reducing infiltration and increasing surface runoff. The rivers reached their bank full capacity and flooded. The second cause, high tides and storm surges. This contributed towards the flood event because fresh river discharge was unable to flow freely into the Bristol Channel, causing it to back up and flood. So please make sure that your answers include those key points, and if you would like to pause the video again to redraft your answers, that is absolutely fine. So we will now consider the human causes of flooding in Somerset. While these causes are not linked directly to the extreme weather event, human activity did exacerbate the problems and did contribute towards the flooding. So there were 2 human causes of flooding in Somerset. The first human cause was linked to dredging. So dredging means to remove a buildup of silt from within the river channel. This allows the river to have full capacity so that it can hold as much water or as much river discharge as possible. This might prevent it from flooding. However, the rivers involved in the flooding within Somerset had not been dredged for more than 20 years. So for example, the River Tone and the River Parrett. This meant their channels filled with silt, reducing their capacity to store river discharge. Therefore, the rivers were unable to contain the additional water, causing them to flood. So they were not able to cope with the additional input of rainwater that this extreme weather event brought to the area. The left-hand image shows that there is less room for river discharge in a river that hasn't been dredged. The right-hand image shows that there is more room within a river channel that has been dredged, so it can contain and hold more water, hopefully reducing the chance that it will flood. So the second human cause of flooding in Somerset was linked to urbanisation and building on the river floodplain. There are several urban areas in the Somerset levels, like Bridgewater, that you see in the aerial photograph to the right of the screen. Urbanisation and building on a river floodplain increases the impermeable surfaces around river channels within their drainage basins. Impermeable surfaces do not allow water to pass through them. This reduces infiltration, and it will increase surface runoff. This means rainwater can reach the river channels much faster. If rainwater reaches the river channels faster, this will increase the river discharge levels within the channel really quickly, and this might mean that a river is more likely to reach its bank full capacity and flood. So human activity increases the chance that a flood will occur when it rains heavily. So this is a good opportunity to review an OS map extract of the area around Bridgewater. Notice the lack of contour lines, showing that the area is extremely low lying. You can also see the River Parrett within this extract. The aerial photograph is also a useful tool for geographers, as it shows land use in the area more clearly. So for example, notice how close the urban area is to the river channel and how much of the area is being utilised for farming. These photographs provide a record from a moment in time. This can be used to plan changes to the area, but also to monitor those changes. So we're now going to explain the human causes of flooding in Somerset 2013 to 2014 for 6 marks. There are 2 human causes of flooding in Somerset. 1, a lack of dredging, and 2, urbanisation. So I would like you to please write an answer to this question, but make sure that you include the key terms in the box at the bottom. So capacity, silt, impermeable, infiltration, surface runoff, bank full capacity, and river discharge. And remember that you need to develop your explanation fully so it is clear how these factors have contributed towards the flooding. So what part did they play in the flooding of Somerset in 2013 to 2014? So please pause the video at this point to write your answer, and then when you're ready to mark your work, please resume the video. So we're now ready to mark your work. So please make sure that you have a different colour pen in order to do this. So this is my answer. So a lack of river dredging increased the risk of flooding in the Somerset levels. The rivers involved in the flooding had not been dredged for more than 20 years, e.g. the River Tone and the River Parrett. 1 mark. This meant their channels filled with silt, reducing their capacity to store river discharge. 1 mark. This meant the rivers were unable to contain the additional input of water, causing them to flood. 1 mark. Urbanisation also increased the risk of flooding. Building on the floodplain has increased the amount of impermeable surfaces. 1 mark. This prevented the infiltration of rainwater into the soil, creating more surface runoff. 1 mark. This meant the rivers reached their bankfall capacity faster, causing a flood. 1 mark. So please ensure that you've included all of the points that are in this model answer, and if you'd like to pause the video again so that you can redraft your answer, that is absolutely fine. So we found out about the physical or natural causes of the Somerset flooding, as well as the role of human activity. This flooding was linked to an extreme weather event in the UK. But which cause is the most significant, physical or human? So let's review this quote. The human causes of the Somerset floods 2013 to 2014 were the most significant. Do you agree? You need to decide if you agree or disagree with this quote and provide a reason for your view. And this means that you have justified your opinion. There is no right or wrong answer. So you need to summarise in a sentence your view on the answer to this question. So please pause the video to complete the short task and then resume the video when you are ready to mark your work. So we're now ready to mark your work. You're going to need to use a different colour pen in order to do this. So I've given an example of a reason to agree and a reason to disagree with the statement. Your answer may not be the same as mine, and that's absolutely fine, but you must ensure that you have given a reason for your view. So a reason to agree could be, I agree that human causes of the Somerset Floods 2013 to 2014 were more significant because if dredging had taken place, the river capacity would have increased and they would have accommodated the additional input of rainfall. Or you might want to disagree with the statement. So, for example, I disagree that human causes of the Somerset Floods 2013 to 2014 were more significant because, ultimately, the area received 3 times more rainfall than average, creating additional river discharge, which resulted in a flood. But just remember that the flooding occurred in the context of an extreme weather event, but it was also caused by a combination of other factors linked to human activity. So it is very difficult to decide which is the most significant because they all link together. So this brings us to the end of our first lesson about the Somerset Floods today, linked to the location and the cause of these floods. There is a second lesson on the Somerset flooding, which looks at the impacts and management of the flood event, which might be worth looking at now that you understand the location and the causes. So thank you very much for joining me for the lesson today. Please make sure that you undertake the exit quiz so that you can ensure you've understood everything from today, and it might be worth summarising your 3 key things that you've learned from the lesson. So thank you very much and take care.